this, not about presenting because I'm comfortable with y'all, but about the timing of this because I have a video to talk through. It's only 15 minutes. I think we'll get there. But so Cursor AI is a tool. It's a tool for coding that has LLM assistance using Claude or Anthropic's Claude model, and I feel like it's transformed my ability to produce things, to code, do my job faster, but maintain the quality I want. So trying to think about how to explain that, really the only idea I had was let me just build something and walk through the process of that. So I built something in an hour. And I feel very strongly it would take at least twice as long to do that without Claude. I edited the video down to 15 minutes, but the goals of this, so I'm gonna fly through it, it's gonna be kind of a whirlwind. I'm gonna fly through the whole thing. The code logic of how it works is not important, and it may feel kind of fast and confusing, but what I hope is that by the end of it, the ways that Cursor work, the interaction with Cursor, and why it would allow me to do this much faster than I could do it without Cursor. I hope that part is clear. And past that, feel free to jump in with any questions. So I'm gonna start this and talk and just walk through building this app. Can y'all see this movie?
Yep.
So the ultimate thing I built was this little web app where you can put in the name of a model for, this is going to be a little tailored towards developers, but I hope everyone finds it interesting. You can put in the name of a model from Hugging Face, click Start Evaluation. It will show a progress bar as it's basically running inference on this model a bunch, measuring certain things. It actually streams that progress over a WebSocket. And then at the end, it shows these measurements. So that's what I'm building. Started from scratch. Okay, how do I get this started? So I started with a script where I wanted to compare the speed of two BERT models, modern BERT, which is newer, to kind of the base BERT. So I typed that in. I want a script to compare the speed of these two models, and it spits out all this code. And so that's nice. I don't know if it works yet. I haven't really reviewed it. I run it. Okay, I get an error. I decide, again, I'm going to fly through this, okay? But I'm hoping at the end I'll check back in. I hope it comes together while it's clear. I decide I want to add arguments to my script. So here, this is similar to Copilot in VS Code. The full file generation is not. But so it's suggesting code. I just hit tab to accept it. And it adds arguments to my script that I can add from the command line. Let's see, write a README. Okay, this is Cursor. This is beyond what Copilot can do. Write a README for this script. So documentation, basically. Most of the generation I edited out, but not this one. So it generates in this right panel. Here I'm just refactoring a little bit, but then I accept this. It makes a new file for me. I preview it. It looks pretty good. Now I have a first version of documentation. And yeah, otherwise I'd have to write that out, type every character myself. Okay, now I've got a Python script to compare models. I'm going to build a web app for this. So I want a FastAPI WebSocket server that receives messages, specifying Hugging Face model path and streams. So here I'm catching myself like, wait a minute, I'm specifying the whole application. This is going to be too much for this kind of stupid AI model. I need to break this down into simple parts so that it can just regurgitate things that it's seen a million times. So instead I say, write a skeleton FastAPI WebSocket server. And it generates a code file for that, tells me the requirements I'm going to need for that, which I actually didn't use. All right, now I'm going to do the same thing for the front end. So that's the back end. Here comes the front end. I want a mobile-ready web page where a user can type in or copy and paste, whatever, Hugging Face model path, click submit, and watch a progress bar and display metrics once the progress is complete. So this is similar where I know if I try to, I know I need to have it do one atomic thing. And I guess I've developed a sense for this, but I say, don't worry about the back end, just fake all the data, just make the UI basically. And I say use CDN based Vue.js. So that's a web framework. So I am able to say like, I want you to make this page with this web framework. It's just one I like. So it spits out a whole HTML file. I'll just give a spoiler. That thing I showed at the end, I didn't really have to mess with the UI at all. I used to spend hours on HTML and CSS. I know we don't do a lot for this job, but I think it's pretty cool. So now I tried to run the server. I got an error, had to rename the file. Is there a question, by the way? Oh, rhyme with this as well.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Feel free to interrupt if because I know I'm going fast. So, okay. I'm still trying to get my server running. There's a feature where you can, I know that there's a feature called auto reload where if you save a change to the Python file, it reloads the server. I want that, but I don't remember the parameter. So you can do the panel editor, like I showed you to the right, where I pull up this right panel, and that's, you're chatting with Claude with talking about your code when you do that. You can also do kind of an inline version of that here. Those are the two main things I use. The Copilot thing that's similar to VS Code, I actually find that more often annoying than helpful. Well, I guess it's 50-50, it depends. Anyway, so it suggests that parameter for me. And now I get an error though. To be honest, I don't know what this means. So I just decide to, I won't skip ahead. So I just basically copy or paraphrase that error. Same with the inline editor. And it tells me, oh, you need to make that first argument string. I'm like, okay, that turns out that fixed it. Okay, so I went in my browser to the server. I got the server's up. But now I say, when I go in my browser to the server, I want it to serve index.html, the front end I made. So here's a key thing in this chat pane. You can see that you can select files that you want to talk about, basically, or that you want to add for context that you want it to edit on. And so the files that play with this interaction are the main.py server and index.html, which is the front end. So let me back up because I was maybe a little too fast. What happens when I say it should serve this page? It's the same thing. It generates code to insert into the file. You see it in green. The code it's going to remove is red. The code it's going to add is green. I review it quickly, and then I accept the changes. The server reloads, and now it's serving the HTML page. So sweet. Again, I'm going to stress that how this works is not important, but hopefully, how cursor works by the end will be more clear and why I think it's valuable. All right, let's see. So now I know, now I'm thinking about, I have this front end that's just faking the progress bar. I want to actually get like stream progress from my script to the front end. So I know I'm going to need a progress callback. So here's the point here. This is kind of the more intensive functionality, the algorithms that I think are fun when I'm coding, and this I do manually pretty much. This is less boilerplate. So I added a progress callback to my script. Now I'm writing a function in my server to send that progress. And this is where, in this next step, Copilot is just suggesting things to me that are wrong. It's like almost everything it suggests is not what I want. All right, starting to get it. Okay, now this is something, a smaller thing, but I use this all the time. So what you can see happening on the right, I like to pass, when I write functions, I like to name every argument, and basically the format it's suggesting is to the right. And it's kind of an annoying thing to have to edit. So I just hit tab and it reformats my code, which is similar to an auto formatter. I don't have one set up. But it adds all the argument names. This part's almost over, but this is just me kind of hooking things up. All right, so that time it did suggest, it started to get where I was going. It was nice that it suggested code changes, and I just hit tab to accept it. All right, so let's try it. Okay, I realized that I implemented the progress streaming on the back end. I did not update the front end to use that. So this is something cool. This is one of the things I love about Cursor. So I've written code on the server that as the model's being tested, it's going to send messages that look like this: progress, colon, the number of rows, the number of attempts completed divided by the total number. And here's what I'm going to do. In Cursor, this chat window, I'm going to show it the code I wrote. That's main.py. Give it the front end, which is index.html. And I'm just going to explain what I want. I'm going to say, okay, I want the front end to receive these messages and show the progress bar accordingly. And it's going to write for me. It's going to look at the code here and automatically figure out the logic for parsing these strings and converting them to a progress percentage and all that crap that feels a little bit mind-numbing to me to do. So here's what I say now: update the HTML page to perform a real test. I could have said to use the progress messages. I'm reviewing the proposed edits. It's removing the mocked, the fake stuff, and using the real data. And here's all the string parsing code that it wrote for me. So I'm like, this probably works. Let me just try it. It's a pretty simple thing to get right, so it probably works. All right, got an error. It's not working yet. So debugging. And the point here is that you still have to, even using this, you still have to know what's going on. If I didn't understand this code, it can't debug everything for you. It's not that smart. So the WebSocket's not, I do go ahead and ask it what the error is, but while it's responding, I see the error myself and just change it. So here it's suggested a bunch of changes. I don't want those. I just reject them. So no edits to the file. All right, does it work now? Still not. The progress, so it's running the script, but it's not sending the progress. So I add some debugging print statements, and I realize, okay, I need to use async await on all these methods. So I'm going to have to refactor a bunch of stuff. So a lot of this is, again, manual refactoring and fixing. But here's just another example that's useful. So I want this function to check if the callback method is async or not, and call it back accordingly. I don't know how to do that. So this is a prime example of using it as well. This is the kind of thing you'd look up on Stack Overflow, classic kind of situation. But it's like having Stack Overflow in your editor. It's just faster. All right, a couple more little bug fixes here. Needed a wait there. Let's see, please work. Okay, hey, look at that. Now this progress bar is, it's working. So all that string parsing logic worked. Let's see. Now, I don't know yet if it's going to print the real metrics or if it's going to throw an error. Okay, it works. And let me call out that this actually looks like a decent app, and I didn't design any of it. Okay, so that's stage one. Stage two, I want to enhance this app. So I'd like to measure more stuff. I'd like to check GPU RAM usage. I don't know how to check that. So it writes this function for me. Again, this is like Stack Overflow in your editor. Proposes some logic to track it. I review it. I think I'm going to accept this. I accept it. So I'm going to forget about the web app for a second and go back to that script that I started with, where I can just, from the command line, run a script that measures metrics on the model. I want to add, I decide I want to add a parameter. I want to add it to the README. I could have done that myself. It's just one line, but it added it for me. Then I want an example usage. This is basically just Autopilot or Copilot or whatever, but it writes out how you call this script. So I copy and paste that in my terminal. Oh, okay. So for my script to work, I have to do all that async await stuff here too. There should just be a couple changes here. Okay, so I did that manually, but now I'm like, wait a minute. I've never used await in a main function. How do you even do that? I'm sure there's an easy way to do that. But I ask cursor, how do I call an async method from main? And it tells me how, and it refactors it for me. And I'm like, again, this is not complicated logic. This is probably something that's done a million times. So it almost definitely is going to work. The code looks reasonable. Now that I see it, it makes sense. Let me try it. Okay, that works now. All right, it worked. The script works. All right, here's another example of stuff, of something, just more examples of things I love from using this. Oh, wait, we're not there yet. But okay, so refactor this file. Right now, I've hard-coded these test texts to run through the model as a test. Again, this is developer specific, sorry everyone, but instead of hard-coding text, I don't want to use tokenization. I just want to generate a random tensor of tokens and pass that through the model. So that all the sequence length are 256. So it's not a trivial refactor, but it is kind of boilerplate. I tell cursor that I want that. This is the kind of thing I do a million times on one of our projects. And it basically does that whole refactor for me. This code I do review more closely because it's not complex, but it's also not trivial. The changes look right. I accept the file. All right, this is a stylistic thing I decided to do. I want to make a typed dictionary for all the measurements I'm recording. I don't really remember how to do that, but it's simple and it writes it for me. Let's see. I could have edited this out. I'm implementing a couple more metrics here. So here's a classic thing of cursor. I've been doing it a bunch, but haven't stopped to show. So I made an edit here on line 71, and then it's anticipating my next edit down on line 94. It's changing the return object. So I hit tab, it automatically jumps to that line, and it shows the change it wants to make, and then I can hit tab again to accept that change. So that's different than Copilot as well, where it looks anywhere in the file for an anticipated change, and you can hit tab to jump there. Sometimes it's annoying because I actually just want to make a tab and I jump. So it's not perfect, but it is generally pretty helpful. Question?
Yeah, this is awesome. I was curious, now, is this running entirely locally on your machine, or is it making API calls to a web server remotely?
Local. Everything's local for this.
Everything's local. Okay, that is great to hear.
Oh. I'm sorry. You mean the Claude part of it? Cursor AI does send code to Claude. That's probably what you were asking about. So,
right.
Yeah, yes, it does send code to Claude. All right, here's something else I feel like this ups my game a little bit on projects. So I decided instead of just passing a model path as a command line argument, are there any Python libraries for beautiful CLI-based GUIs? Can you import one and show a beautiful, I use the word beautiful a lot because I feel like I get good results when I do that. A beautiful model selection prompt pre-populated with 2 to 3 popular BERT models. So it's using questionary, which I've never heard of. It writes the code, adds the imports. This is new. It asks if I want to install that, so I do that. All right, so this is what, if you see at the bottom here, this is the interface, which it does look cool. And I've actually learned there are different command line GUIs you can use, so that's pretty cool when you have time to do that. I wouldn't do it without Cursor, to be honest. It'd be a pain. Okay, now the progress bar looks kind of lame, so I say, is there something similar that's like TQDM on steroids for the progress bar? Yes, Rich, which I've not used before. It writes that for me. I install Rich. And this is, again, it's like that's something super boilerplate that's going to look almost the same every time on Stack Overflow. So pretty high confidence it's just going to get it right. All right, let's see what this progress bar looks like. Okay, that's the progress bar, this red thing. That's cool. All right, let me finish out this web app. Trying to think of if there are any, I can stop the video. I'm just trying to remember if there are any more major kind of cursor examples in this. I think that's
unknown call.
Pretty much it. It'd be, I mean, let me just open it up for, well, first let me ask. To me, when I show this, I feel like, okay, I'm just gonna stop this. I feel like I just did a bunch of things that if I weren't using Cursor, it would have taken me hours to do. I feel like this version of me coding can't compete, or me not using this can't compete with me using it. I'm curious, especially from the engineers not using this, if this is compelling or if you're not quite there and why. I mean, I'm not going to personally be offended if you don't want to use Cursor. What are reactions? Is it clear how this is powerful?
Mm-hmm. Edward, did you see Steven's last question in the chat?
No.
Oh, Edward, I was saying, is this happening in your environment or within Cursor's environment?
Oh, Cursor's environment. Cursor
Gotcha.
it's a fork on VS Code. So it's pretty much the same as VS Code that we use. I think we already have a company Cursor account, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do.
I guess the question I'm asking is, and I'm not a programmer, but my understanding is programmers have their own environment and they have kind of it all set up the way they want it and they have tools within it and other things. Do you have to leave all that to do this? Or
No.
can you?
No, it's well, given that I use VS Code, and so I had all my personalized tooling and stuff in VS Code, that all transfers to Cursor because Cursor is built on VS Code. So that makes sense.
But if you weren't using VS Code, you'd have to go learn a new environment.
I think so. Yeah.
The part that isn't strictly in Edward's environment is that it has to send all his stuff to Claude. It's not a locally running Claude.
This one.
Yeah.
Joyce?
Joyce?
Quick question. Sorry, we're running out of time. Is there a rank for libraries in Python that these models would learn more? They learn more from because it's more out there, like in Stack Overflow, whatever, and they know how to suggest code better. Does anybody did that for kind of understanding the certainty based on, the
You're saying
base
like
models?
does it do more for popular libraries or do better?
Right, like NumPy is something that's been out there for a while and
Yes.
lots of examples.
I would think certainly, definitely. I think it's just regurgitating stuff it's seen before. It can't think. Like when I never let it help me with algorithms or stuff that it hasn't seen a million times because it's just always gets wrong.
Yeah, I've experienced that too. It's very much proportional to how much Stack Overflow support there is, you could say.
I see, yeah.
Which is interesting too, because if the nature of these bugs is changing over time as tools evolve, it depends so much on Stack Overflow. I read this article the other day that was saying that the steep decline in training data that's coming from Stack Overflow might be a ticking time bomb.
Yeah,
Interesting.
and then like new libraries won't get accrued.
Fascinating. Wow.
Maybe reasoning models will figure it out for us, but I won't hold my breath.
Yeah,
Edward, this was super cool. I really appreciated you walking through it in this level of detail. I feel like I've been using Cursor a while, but I haven't been using it at that level of scope that you did, like the way you just were like, okay, let's put a web app together. Let's implement it. Let's just, I like the tip about the GUI and all this stuff. So, super helpful.
Thanks.
Yeah, this is so creative. Thanks, Edward, for putting all the time into this.
Yeah, thanks, Beth, for inviting me to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. This was fantastic. Thanks so much for sharing.
All right. I know it's 10:01. See y'all later.
Great job, Edward.
Yep.
Excellent, Edward.
Thank you.